Imagine for a second that you're a musician, but don't picture yourself in a modern studio.
Yeah.
You don't have an iPad, no ultimate guitar tabs open, and definitely no crisp printed sheet music in front of you.
We are going way, way back. Imagine you were living 1,000 years ago. You're in a cold monastery in medieval Europe.
And you have to learn a new piece of music.
A complex one. But here's the kicker. There's absolutely no way to write it down.
At least not in the way that tells you exactly which notes to sing. You just have to memorize it instantly, by ear.
And if you forget it,
It's gone.
it's just gone. Or worse, it mutates into something completely different as you try to teach it to the monk standing next to you.
It really sounds like a chaotic, high-stakes game of telephone, doesn't it?
For centuries, that was the absolute reality. Music was fragile. It lived entirely in the memory of the singers.
So if the choir master died,
The library of music died with him.
that is a terrifying thought. But today, we're going to look at the moment that all changed. We're doing a deep dive into the birth of musical notation.
Basically, the technology that allowed humanity to finally, freeze sound onto paper.
And specifically, we're analyzing a seminal chapter on the origins of Western notation.
It's a fascinating look at how we got from these vague scribbles and oral tradition to the precise scores of Beethoven or the Beatles.
And just before we jump in, a quick note for you. This deep dive is an original analytical work brought to you by Viola Studio.
Welcome to Viola Studio. We are a YouTube channel dedicated to the technical, pedagogical, and artistic development of viola students and instrumentalists. In every episode, our goal is to provide a concise and entertaining analysis. We will explore key themes, the messages of the great masters, and the historical context that shaped the sound of our instrument. Whether you are taking your first steps in the alto clef, or you are a professional seeking a new perspective, there is something for everyone at Viola Studio.
Don't miss our upcoming episodes, and remember,
There's always time to explore the history and the heart of classical music.
So, set the scene for us. Where does this story actually start?
We have to go back to the end of the first millennium. We're deep inside the monasteries of Europe.
Right, that's where all the intellectual heavy lifting was happening.
It was, and the church was facing a major logistical nightmare.
The problem being, how do you get thousands of monks spread all across a continent to sing the same songs the same way?
That's it exactly. The oral tradition was buckling. The repertoire of chants was just exploding. There were thousands of them, and human memory couldn't keep up.
So you had monks in Paris singing one version, and monks in Rome singing something totally different.
And both of them thinking they were doing it right.
Okay, so today we're going to trace the solution. We'll move from these early primitive symbols called neumes.
Right. All the way to the revolutionary mind of a monk named Guido d'Arezzo. We'll also dissect his famous Guidonian hand.
Which is a wild concept I can't wait to get into.
And we'll wrap up with the theory of musical modes, which is essentially why medieval music sounds so well.
Medieval.
Exactly.
It's a journey from chaos to order. So let's start with the chaos. You mentioned neumes, N-E-U-M-E-S. When I look at pictures of them, they don't look like music. They're just little scratches or squiggles.
That's a great way to describe them. The word comes from the Greek for breath or gesture, and the earliest neumes were just that, written aids, mnemonics.
So if I'm a monk in the year 900, I see a squiggle swooping up, and I know I need to sing higher.
Roughly, yes.
Yeah.
It reminded you if the melody went up, down, or stayed the same. But, and this is the crucial part, it didn't tell you how far up or down.
Ah, I see. So an upward stroke could mean a tiny step, or it could mean a huge leap up an octave.
Precisely. It relies entirely on you already knowing the tune.
It's like a cheat sheet.
It is. It's a cue card.
Yeah.
If you know the song, it helps you remember, oh, right, this is where the pitch goes up. But if you've never heard the song before,
Useless.
totally useless. It's relative, not absolute. You could not sight read from early neumes.
Not a chance.
These were called adiastomatic neumes, meaning without intervals. But, this wasn't good enough. So evolution happened. We got what are called diastomatic or heightened neumes.
Heightened implies some verticality was added.
They started trying. Imagine they scratched a single line across the page, kind of a horizon, if you will.
Okay, picturing it. A single horizontal line on the parchment.
Right. And by placing the neumes higher or lower relative to that line, the singer could finally get a sense of the pitch distance.
A little more context.
A little more, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still just one line, right?
Mm-hmm.
That feels like trying to measure a building with a ruler that only has one mark on it.
It's better than nothing, but I can see how it would still be massively open to misinterpretation.
Totally. They needed more precision. They needed a grid.
And this is where our hero enters the story. The man who drew the lines that changed music forever.
Enter Guido d'Arezzo, an Italian monk, a music theorist, active around the early 11th century. He is a giant in music history.
Okay, but when we talk about inventors, it's rarely just one guy in a vacuum having a eureka moment. Did he really invent the musical staff?
That's a fair point. He likely formalized and popularized practices that were already starting to bubble up. But his contribution is undeniable because he systematized it. He wrote it down. He taught it.
So what was his solution?
Guido's big idea was elegant. Instead of one line, he drew 4 lines across the page.
4 lines. We use 5 today, so that's pretty close.
4 was enough for the vocal range of the chants. And the brilliance is that it allowed the singer to gauge the melody's movement precisely.
Not just it goes up, but it goes up exactly this much.
Yes, it turned the page into a graph.
And here's a detail I found fascinating. They used color coding.
Yes. I love this detail. It shows how practical he was. To make it even clearer, they'd often draw a yellow line specifically to denote the note C.
And sometimes a red line for F.
Sometimes a red line for F.
That is so smart. It's like highlighting, okay, the yellow line is C. If the dot is on that line, I sing C.
It changed everything.
Yep.
Pitch became fixed. A singer could look at a parchment and know at a glance exactly where to start. Guido himself wrote that his intention was, and I love this quote, so that any intelligent and diligent person can learn a chant.
Intelligent and diligent. I like that. He's basically saying, look, I made this system foolproof. If you just study, you can do this.
It shifted music from an art of pure memory to an art of literacy. It was revolutionary.
That's the moment music could go viral, really.
Yeah.
So Guido gives us the staff, but he didn't stop there. We need to talk about the hand.
The Guidonian hand.
Sounds like a secret society handshake or something.
It does, but it's actually a teaching tool. It's the ultimate pedagogical tool of the Middle Ages. He describes it in his treatise, the Micrologus, around 1026.
Okay, paint a picture for us. How does it work?
So hold up your left hand, palm facing you.
Okay.
To a medieval monk, that hand was a map of the entire musical universe.
A map.
A map. It covered 20 notes, about 2.5 octaves, which was the full range of the chants. And these notes were mapped onto specific joints and tips of your fingers.
So walk us through. Where does it start?
It starts at the very tip of your thumb. That's the lowest note, low G. Then you slide to the middle joint of the thumb for A, then the bass for B.
And then it jumps over to the index finger. It moves in a spiral.
Exactly.
Okay.
A counterclockwise spiral around the joints and tips of the fingers. And as the spiral gets tighter and moves up the hand, the notes get higher.
I read that this spiral also told the singer where to switch into falsetto.
That's right. The upper reaches of the hand, the tips of the middle and ring fingers represented the top of the vocal range. Point there, you knew you were in the high register.
That's such a tactile way to learn. Today, if I ask a student to visualize theory, they almost always picture a pianid.
Precisely. The piano is our mental grid. It's linear. But these monks, they didn't have keyboards. They had their bodies.
So the teacher would just stand there, hold up his hand.
And point to a specific joint with his right index finger, and the whole choir would see the note and sing it.
It's a human keyboard.
It is. And it let them talk about pitch without singing. You could point and say, you're singing this note, but you should be singing this one. It made the invisible visible.
Incredible. But wait, they didn't just call them ABC, right? This leads to another huge invention, the do-re-mi stuff.
Solmization.
Solmization, okay.
It's the system for talking about melody abstractly. Guido introduced the syllables. Ut, mi, fa, sol, la.
Wait, oot, not do. I definitely learned do-re-mi.
Originally it was ut. Do came much, much later, probably because it's just easier to sing. But Guido took these from a hymn where each line started on a successively higher note.
So the first syllable of the first line was oot.
And the first syllable of the second line was re, and so on. A perfect mnemonic.
I'm noticing something else, though. Oot, re, mi, fa, sol, la. There's no T.
Correct. It was a hexachord system. A 6-note scale.
But you just said the hand had 20 notes. How do you cover 20 notes with only 6 syllables?
This is where it gets a little complex, but it's fascinating. The hexachords, the 6-note patterns, they had to overlap. It's like a sliding scale.
Okay, so you pivot, You'd treat a note as a new oot and start a fresh pattern.
You got it. That was called mutation. So every single note in the system had a specific address. It had a letter name, like C, and a coordinate on the hand based on the syllables.
Give us an example.
Sure. Take what we call middle C.
Yeah.
In Guido's system, on the hand, that note was known as C solfa ut.
C solfa oot. It's like a GPS coordinate.
It is. It tells you exactly where that note sits in the system.
Speaking of coordinates, there's a phrase we use all the time that comes directly from this, and when I learned this, I was just floored.
You're talking about running the gamut.
Yes. To cover the whole range of something. Tell us where that comes from.
It's history, hiding in plain sight. Remember where the scale started on the hand?
The tip of the thumb. Low G.
Right. Well, in the medieval system, that low G was represented by the Greek letter gamma, and the syllable for the first note of the scale is gamma ut. That was the technical name for the lowest note on the hand. Gamma just slurred together over time to become gamut.
That is fantastic.
So to run the gamut was to literally sing from the very bottom of the musical scale all the way to the top.
Incredible. Okay, let's recap. We have the staff, we have the hand, we have the syllables. But we need to talk about the flavor of the music, why medieval chants have that different atmosphere.
That brings us to musical modes.
Modes. This can be confusing even for music students today. How should we think about them?
Think of them as different flavors of scales. Today, we basically rely on two, major and minor, happy and sad.
Right.
They had a whole variety of flavors, a system inherited from ancient Greece and Byzantium.
There's a great way to understand this using a piano, even though they didn't have them.
Yes, the white key analogy is perfect. If you play only the white keys from C to C, you get our modern major scale. That's the Ionian mode.
Bright, happy, but what if you start on D white keys, D to D?
Now you have the Dorian mode. It's a bit more contemplative, has a kind of folk quality. Think of Scarborough Fair.
Ah, okay. And starting on E.
That's Phrygian. Very distinct. Sounds almost Spanish or Middle Eastern to our ears. It's very tense.
Yeah.
Lydian. This one is dreamy, magical. It has a raised fourth note that makes it feel like it's floating.
G.
Mixolydian. That's the rock and roll mode. It's like a major scale, but with a cool, bluesy lowered seventh.
And A.
Aeolian. That corresponds exactly to our natural minor scale. Sad, serious.
Okay, that's 6. What about B? What happens if you play the white keys from B to B?
Ah, the Locrian mode.
Yeah.
The black sheep of the family. It was practically unused in the Middle Ages.
Why?
Physics, really. The interval between the first note B and the fifth note F is a tritone.
The tritone sounds ominous.
It is. It's highly dissonant. They called it the diabolus in musica, the devil in music. It just felt too unstable for sacred chant, so they avoided it.
So the whole atmosphere of medieval music comes from using this wider palette of modes, not just our major-minor system.
Exactly. It wasn't until much later, really the Baroque era with Bach and Handel, that this rich variety narrowed down.
It narrowed down into just 2 main categories.
It did. The system of tonal harmony that developed reduced all those flavors into either major or minor. Music was now in a key, not a mode.
That's a huge shift. We went from a palette of 6 or 7 colors down to 2.
In a way, yes. Though the complexity just shifted elsewhere, into harmony and complex key changes. But that ancient modal variety was lost for a few centuries.
It's amazing to look at the whole picture. We started with monks just struggling to remember tunes.
Then we get neumes, these little reminders. Then Guido steps in. He gives us the staff, the hand, the syllables.
All within this framework of modes. It
Yeah.
shows notation wasn't just invented. It was a desperate solution to a real problem. Information overload.
That's the perfect way to put it. The church had too much data, too many songs. Notation was their storage system, the hard drive of the Middle Ages.
And without it, we wouldn't have Bach or Mozart or the ability to preserve a musical thought for centuries.
It's the difference between a story told around a campfire and a novel. One changes every time, the other can last forever.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. We talked about how the monks used their hands to visualize music, and we use a keyboard.
And this raises a really provocative question.
How much does the tool we use to visualize music change the music itself?
Right. If we were still pointing at our knuckles to compose, would our melodies sound different?
I think they would. The keyboard is so linear. The Guidonian hand is a spiral. It connects notes in a completely different physical way.
It makes you wonder if our modern major-minor thinking is just a result of the instruments we happen to build.
That is a wild thought. Maybe there's a lost melody hidden in the spiral of our fingers that we just can't find on a piano.
It's certainly possible. Tools shape our thoughts just as much as we shape our tools.
Well, that brings us to the end of this journey. We hope you'll never look at a sheet of music or your own hand the same way again.
And you'll definitely never hear the phrase running the gamut without thinking of a monk's thumb.
Exactly. This detailed analysis was a production of Viola Studio. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please look out for future podcasts and educational works from Viola Studio.
We're committed to exploring these fascinating corners of music history and theory. There's always more to learn.
Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep listening closely.
Thank you for joining us, and we hope this summary and analysis have been of great help to you. Please remember that this is only a summary and can never replace the book itself. Therefore, we invite you to truly immerse yourself in the work by reading the original text. If this content was useful to you, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the notification bell. Remember, you can share this video with your friends to help our community continue to grow. Warmest regards, and remember, there is always time to learn and explore the world of classical music. A Viola Studio production.